And now we have a situation. I'll deal with the last one, and y'all can figure out how many you want to ask me if there's follow-up. We need to do a job of straightening out the Texas Department of Transportation. I don't know whether you've been following that, but their idea, that was a governor's idea that they pushed through time and time again, was building toll roads to help bring these 18-wheelers from Mexico to Chicago, taking people's land through eminent domain, not paying them for the loss of the use of the land because their land could be bisected by an elevated freeway with 18-wheelers in the middle of that land, fighting the kind of eminent domain reforms that we needed to prevent that from occurring, giving it to a foreign private company to decide where the entrances and exits were, refusing to this day to turn over the documents on the deal that they had cut with a Spanish company going to operate it, hiring just last summer the lobbyist for the project to be the chief of staff of the governor of the state of Texas. And then meanwhile, TxDOT is going broke. They say they lost $1 billion, and we asked them a few years ago, they misplaced $1 billion. We say, okay, who was held accountable for that? And we have yet to hear an answer to that question. And now you go on our website, and you'll see the testimony of Ms. DeLisi, Chairman DeLisi, former campaign manager for Rick Perry, who he appointed to be on the chair. I mean, we've had various citizens distinguished. So he appointed Ms. DeLisi in that position. It's on the website. Read that testimony. This is what she says in essence. Our revenues are going down. Our operation and maintenance costs are going up. So what we're going to do to afford new starts is we're going to borrow money. Now, I don't know how many people here are fiscal conservatives, but I will tell you this. If you're in a family or you're in a business, this is not conservative to say our revenues are going down, our expenses are going up, our operations and maintenance. So what we're going to do is we're going to engage in massive borrowing to fill the gap. I will shoot straight with the people of this community, and we got to clean this situation up if we're going to have a future and we're going to have mobility in our community. And with that, I want to. That's probably long enough for one answer with anybody.
It's a great job getting it done in a timely manner. Let me ask you, kind of give you a sense of the room. The number one question, in fact, we had 16 questions related to immigration.
Sure.
One of the hottest issues, one of the great concerns that are going on.
Right.
We're all watching very closely what's happening in Arizona. And of course, the response is taking place there. And I think, and I'll probably have a few questions related to immigration, to be perfectly honest with you, because all Texas politicians, in my experience, when I talk to them, have had a hard time talking about that issue because of pragmatic realities, but real safety concerns and those type of issues. So kind of summarize your position. The governor has said that he doesn't think Arizona's solution is a good solution for Texas. Your thoughts on that comment and how you would approach the immigration problem compared to the way it's been approached today?
Well, first, I'll make two observations, and then I'll talk about the federal and state role. Observation number one, the federal government has failed in a constitutional responsibility that it does have within the Constitution. That is a constitutional responsibility of the federal government, and it has failed in that. It's not the easiest issue, but it starts with two basic principles. Rules that are predictable and well known by the employee and the employer, and securing the border in a way that distinguishes between 500,000 people a day who come with lawful shopping and work and commerce, and those who don't have a job, and those who are narco traffickers and human traffickers and the rest. There's a whole shadow world out there where people who try to divide Americans and shout at each other will not come together to have reality-based policies. And we need that. And we need the federal government of our country to step up to its responsibilities. And we need them to supply the resources to the border states. And I don't mean photo ops. Don't get me started on the politicians who do the photo ops about it, who stand there with Texas Rangers and say, now everything is going to be safe. Okay? We don't need that kind of spin type politics, but it's going to require real resources and local law enforcement, police and sheriff, people who can arrest people to get things done. Second thing I'll say is that the problem has gotten worse. It's gotten worse in the 10 years that Perry has been governor. In every election, remember 2006, go back, he goes in and says, okay, he's got it, he's going to come to the rescue, and he's going to do all these things. And he's up there, and there's a press release out by him today. And now I'm going to say something a little unusual in politics. Frankly, I'll be plenty critical of Governor Perry, but I think there are limits on what the governor can do given the state of federal funding and the state of federal policies, in particular what happens in our workplaces. I think there are limits on what a governor can do. But I will tell you that he'll try to do it all by posturing. But we've seen those photo ops every election opportunity by the governor. I have talked to people along the border, sheriffs and police chiefs. There was a plan that was a secret plan to contain border violence that was announced about a month ago or 6 weeks ago. And interestingly, it was also a secret from those people who are supposed to implement it. And I know, as a person who's had more classified police officers, the largest police force in the country reporting to him, that doesn't work. When the people are supposed to enforce something doesn't know the plan, and when journalists ask about it, they say that it's secret, and they won't identify the funding. That's just not the way you should conduct business. Now, I got an email when Ann Travis and I were coming over here where somebody emailed out saying that I'd created Houston as a sanctuary city. There's not a bigger myth and lie that I could think of. This city arrests people who are undocumented every single day. They did throughout the time that I was mayor. We arrest them, we ID them, we throw them in jail, we prosecute them, and they're turned over to the TDC, and sometimes the TDC turns them loose after they've done their time without being deported. And I do not run the TDC as Texas Department of Corrections as mayor. I will tell you that we have policies that are now being copied by other jurisdictions that want to deal aggressively with this, which is that we fingerprint people. There's probably in this room, I won't ask you, but if you don't have identification, you'll be fingerprinted. And we're the first big city in the country to run those fingerprints against the ICE, the immigration databases, as well as the FBI databases, so that we can identify those individuals. Most of the 12,000 people that have been deported from Harris County Jail since I instituted a program of fingerprinting and identification are things that the Houston police people, that the Houston police officers arrested. These are the facts. Now I'm going to tell you what I won't do and why I don't think Arizona is a good, their approach is a good idea. I am not going to, and I think it would be irresponsible to take our sheriffs and police off of responding to citizens' calls on 911 and investigating crimes in order to do, to do routine immigration work. I think that would erode public safety big time in this community. If you want me to hire or anybody else to hire 5,000 people special just to do that job, well, you better be prepared to pay a lot higher property tax rates than me and a lot of other citizens are willing to do. We ought to set the priorities of our law enforcement based on responding to, here's what police ought to be doing. They ought to respond to calls. They ought to be visible and present in the community so as to deter crime. They ought to go to the scene of crime and collect evidence. They ought to do investigations of those crimes. They ought to identify suspects using good old-fashioned number of police techniques. They ought to arrest people, bring them in, and have the case that can be presented and get the individual indicted and convicted and incarcerated. When we took that no-nonsense type of approach to the hot spots in this city, crime went down. If you decide that you're going to use, the federal government it will be happy to slough off this responsibility to local property taxpayers, and I think that would be a wrong thing to do, put immigration enforcement in those hands. So, that's and anybody who said, let me just say, anybody who says, and I've seen this on my opponent's campaign, Houston's sanctuary city, first they're attacking you and this community, and they're doing us no good.